The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a wholly remarkable book. It has been compiled and recompiled many times over many years and under many different editorships. It contains contributions from countless numbers of travelers and researchers. The introduction begins like this. Space, it says, is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. Listen, ... and so on. Laughter is thought to be one of the body's responses to the unknown, but, as far as our body's responses to fear are concerned, is probably the most enjoyable. So much so, that it is integral to our day-to-day lives, in the sense, at least, that it is well integrated. We make our friends and families laugh, we pay and reward those whose job it is to make us laugh. Whole genres of literature have developed solely on the idea of making the reader laugh. Despite how humor has evolved alongside us, the unexpected is the kernel that lies at the center of all humor. But more than just the plot of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is unexpected. Douglas Adams plays with our expectations, using the very style and presentation of The Hitchhiker's Guide itself, be it our expectations of formality, our expectations of literary devices, or our expectations of the novel's narrator. Even the novel's title is a mockery of similar non-fictional travel guides, and the reader's knowledge of such genres' conventions are used by Adams to humorous effect. The most blatant example of this is when Adams compares the writing of the fictional Encyclopedia Galactica, a traditionally styled encyclopedia, versus the in-universe Hitchhiker's Guide on the subject of alcohol. Here's what the Encyclopedia Galactica says on the subject of alcohol. It says that alcohol is a colorless, volatile liquid formed by the fermentation of sugars and also notes its intoxicating effect on certain carbon-based life forms. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. Notice how the first description apes the style of travel guides, informative, objective, and verbose. When compared to the second description, the difference in tone between the two is clear, but even beyond that, the lengths that Adams has gone to in order to create the greatest comedic punch is very telling. While the first sentence is a complex compound sentence, the second description is made up of two simple sentences. Adams' choice to break the sentences up not only creates suspense by keeping what the Hitchhiker's Guide actually says about alcohol from the reader, but the curtness and tone of the guide present in this sentence is a source of surprise for the reader, and therefore humor. While this may seem obvious, it is brought up here because it is the golden example of this reoccurring joke that is plastered throughout the novel. Start the reader off with a seemingly academic sentence, then either end it with a witty misdirection, or follow it up with an unexpectedly informal stinger. One of the other ways in which Adams plays with our expectations is how he uses and switches up cliches and metaphors in his writing. Look at Ford's witty response to Arthur on page 23 for an example of this. Time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so. The illusory nature of time is one that is often philosophized about, and the discourse surrounding it should be quite familiar to the reader. So Adams turns this cliche on its head by bringing it a little closer to home. Not only is all of time an illusion, but so is lunchtime. For a similar example, look at how Adams describes the Vogon ships on page 33. The great ships hung motionlessly in the sky over every nation on earth. Motionlessly they hung, huge, heavy, steady in the sky, a blasphemy against nature. Many people went straight into shock as their minds tried to encompass what they were looking at. The ships hung in the sky much in the same way that bricks don't. After giving a comically repetitive description of the ships, Adams follows it up with a simile. While this wouldn't be all too surprising for a reader, Adams makes this simile surprising by comparing the ships not to something that it's like, but by comparing it to what it's not like. Not only does this complement the unnaturalness of the ships, but the unexpected nature of the simile's format is humorous. The humor of Adams' style allows him to turn what would be just a normal description of a ship into a source of comedy. While the novel is told in third-person omniscient perspective, the narration of the novel is memorable because it often takes turns down humorous but ultimately irrelevant detours. These shorts often are useful given the genre of the novel. They give larger insight into the type of universe The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy takes place in. When discussing Vogon poetry, Adams takes time to mention two other forms of poetry worse than the Vogons. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Crea. During a recitation by their poet master Grunthos the Flatulent of his poem Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning, 4 of his audience members died of internal hemorrhaging, and the president of the Mid-Galactic Arts Noveling Council survived by gnawing off one of his own legs. Grunthos is reported to have been disappointed by the poem's reception, and was about to embark on a reading of his 12-book epic, My Favorite Bath Time Gurgles, when his own major intestine, in a desperate attempt to save life and civilization, leaped straight up through his neck and throttled his brain. Adams once again employs extremely long-winded sentences for comedic effect. The second and third sentences are filled with clauses that easily could have been separate sentences, but by filling these clauses with smaller jokes, such as giving poet master Grunthos a humorous and contrasting title like The Flatulent, Adams turns what would have been a slog to read into a constant barrage of humor and wit, ending with the final punchline. This is contrasted with the next paragraph, where Adams gives a comparatively curt description of the very worst poetry, mentioning only the ordinary yet long name of its writer and the fact that she lived in Greenbridge, England. Were it devoid of humor, Adams' work would probably be considered to have bad style, and not simply because it would be unfunny. A lot of Adams' style plays with elements often present in poor style, such as overly described paragraphs, cliched concepts, and jarring shifts. But because Adams does add humor to his work, not only are these elements rectified, but they actually add to the humors of the novel's signature style. In this sense, Adams' style is risky. Had his jokes been unfunny, then the nature of his writing might have come across as too pretentious by readers. This shows his confidence in his marriage of style and humor. Eowyn Colfer, who authored the sixth Hitchhiker's novel after Adams' death, said this about his experience with the series. I scuttled home after double chemistry and found a quiet bathroom where I could settle down and read what I was certain would be a thinly veiled version of Star Wars. Vogons destroy the Earth and a single hero survives. Please, I could almost write the rest myself. Never have I been so happy to be proven wrong. The novel clearly plays off of and subverts the expectations readers will bring to it from its less well-written genre mates, and it uses these expectations to create humor. For that reason, it's a classic.